Hey, what's going on, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and this is the start of the 12 days of MTG Goddess. If you missed my video, I'm going to be doing the 12 days of MTG Goddess where I post a video every single day leading up to Christmas. It's a little bit wild, but here we are. And I honestly really wanted to do some sort of like cute intro where it was like cute and like there was music, and then we didn't get there. Maybe next year if I'm crazy enough to do this again, because 12 videos is a lot. But I'm really excited to be sharing this video. Funny, this video actually, I've had this list of cards for so long. I've just never gotten around to filming this video. The list of cards is in my notebook, and I just never got around to filming this. I honestly don't really know why, but I'm finally filming it for you guys today, which is on a really, I think, important topic, which is colorless mana rocks and ramp in EDH. And I kind of, as I was, since this list is a little bit old, there's a couple cards on here I'm not like maybe super high on. I'm kind of just gonna like talk about them and kind of be like, this might be good as a budget option or something like that, because some of the mana excuse me, rocks and ramp can be a little bit more expensive. But these are just some more like maybe budget options, or so there's a couple cards that are a little more expensive, but kind of just wanted to like talk about like the card and like if it's like really good, or if it's kind of like, okay, like this is a pretty good card or something like that. So I think that was everything. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say as well is that the other two parts 1 and 2 will also be listed in the down bar below if you want to watch those for more mana rocks and ramp, because obviously I only talk about 10 in this video because I can't talk about 7,000 cards because that would take a really long time. So let's hop into it. The first card I want to talk about is Explorer's Scope. And again, I wrote this list a really long time ago, so I like forgot that this card existed, and this is a card I forget about a lot of these, to be honest, because I kind of have like my tried and true sort of things, but I like to talk about other stuff on my channel other than just the ones that like I always run. And honestly, this is a pretty decent budget sort of mana acceleration card. It is only basic land, so it's something that like I just want to keep in mind. If you're someone who runs a lot of like specialty lands and things, this card won't really work for you. But what I like about this card is I feel like you can just manipulate it, where if you can like manipulate the top of your library, you could just get a lot of value off of this card. And honestly, it's a really cheap mana cost wise, so I feel like this would work really well in like an equipment type deck where you get bonuses if you're including equipment. Like I think this would be a really good inclusion in those types of decks because it's really cheap to equip as well as to cast. So you can do this, kind of get this, and you might get some value off of it. And if not, honestly, just like looking at the top card of your library is not really a bad thing. And again, if you have options to manipulate it to either put it on the top, put it on the bottom, if you know what it is, or you get a land and that's like another card that you're going through in your deck. So yeah, I think this card is pretty good. But like I said, I think it leans more towards like, if you're running a commander that's, you're running like Voltron is kind of like what I'm thinking about for this card in particular. So this is another type of Voltron card, and that's Paradise Mantle. Fun fact, this is one of my favorite art of all time. This is stunning. Like, I love this so much. Paradise Mantle is like a really interesting card because it's like, again, very cheap wise, and it gets you a mana to your pool. Now, I think this belongs, the types of decks that I'm thinking of this are decks that you're like tapping and untapping a lot of stuff, because then you could get more value out of this. Or again, Voltron, if you're getting bonuses from doing this, or if you're just like, I really need really like cheap mana ways to get more mana, basically. Like, this is a really good budget alternative because it's very cheap cost wise, so you can just cast this for 0, so you can get this out like turn 1, and then if you have like a creature that you're casting on turn 1, you can just like pump out more mana. So again, Voltron type decks, I think this card works pretty well, and like tapping and untapping type of decks. So also let me know if you guys like when I talk about like where I think certain cards fits, because that was like something I think I'm doing a lot more, is like being like, I don't think this card belongs in every deck, but I think it belongs in this types of deck. So let me know if you guys like me doing that. Great. The next card is Lotus Petal, and I think where I see Lotus Petal fitting into are decks that are like try hard, like if you're building a really like more competitive EDH deck or something like that, and you are trying to kill someone very early on in stages of the game, because this is a really dead draw at late stages of the game, but it's really good in the early stages of the game, obviously, because you can play it on turn 1 and then you have, you know, more mana, which is really good. You know, you could like turn 1, do all these crazy things and like get all this mana, which would be really good. So yeah, I mean, I think like, I don't think this is by any means like a necessity, like type of like, you should put this in all your EDH decks, but I think if you're more competitive EDH player and you're looking for cards to run that can get you more mana early on, I think this is a really good option. I also think Lotus Petal is good in, I should say its weakness is that it's just a sack ability. Like, it's not something that it's a constant, like you're constantly getting mana. So my thought with this card is if you're maybe running a little bit of recursion, where like this could be something you recur back, or again, you're trying to kill someone really early stages of the game that you don't really care if this, you get this on turn 1. So that's kind of like my feelings on Lotus Petal. I don't like, it's not a card that I run because I just don't run competitive decks, but I feel like this belongs in those more competitive decks as an option if you're considering it. The next card, fun fact, is a card that I've had apparently, but I had no idea that I owned this card. I had no idea this card existed, and that is Journeyer's Kite. This is a really interesting card. It's an artifact for 2 mana, and for 3, you can you can search your library for a basic land, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So realistically, this is really good for my people who are playing like monocolored decks and are running a lot of basics and you want to just find a way to get them out. It's kind of a lot of mana, to be honest, to like do it. You get it out on like, let's just say like turn 2, like best case scenario, I guess, if you have like nothing else going on. And then you can like realistically do this as many times. You can only tap it, like if you have a way to untap it, that's cool, but if you don't, you just kind of like get to do it like once per turn. But, and also the land does come to your hand, so it's not like it comes onto the battlefield. It's kind of a little bit of mana, honestly, and this totally belongs in, like, slower type decks and anything like that. In a monocolored decks, I think this belongs, like, has a pretty nice home, and I think it's a good, budget alternative, I would say, because it can, like, get through a decent amount of cards. But, again, I'm thinking, like, less competitive games, because you're getting this out and you're doing this every turn, and you're having multiple turns, basically, so. This next card, I've seen this card played in a lot more competitive decks. It's also a more expensive card, like cost-wise, and that is Doubling Cube. I've personally never played with this card before, but I've seen it do work on other people's states of the board. So basically it doubles the amount of each type of mana in your pool, so you can just produce a ton of mana with this card. And honestly, like, the price is, I think, worth it for this card. Like, it can get out of hand really, really fast. I've seen people generate a ton of mana. If you're someone who's, I feel like I get a lot of people who are like budget people who watch my videos. If you're someone who's like on a budget, I don't think this is like a be all end all. Like, if you don't have this card, like, you're not gonna have a game of EDH. Like, but if you are someone who's, I am running a lot of mana acceleration because like that's a huge part of my deck, this might not be a bad card to pick up. And again, I think this card, like, it's a very like try hard card, which is not like, it's not me saying that in like a bad way. This is just like, if you're someone who you're trying to do really powerful things and you're not like a CDH player or anything, but you're just like playing at like a higher power level, this might not be a bad card to pick up and belongs in a bunch of, I think, different decks. So the next card is for my artifact people who are running, there's multiple artifact commanders, honestly, and that is Mox Opal. I actually really want to pick one of these up for Alila, and I'm not, again, this card's a little bit more expensive, so I think this is a necessity. Like, your deck is not going to function without a Mox Opal. If you're playing an artifact deck, like, no, you're going to be okay. But if you're looking to splurge on a card and you do run an artifact deck, I think Mox Opal is a really, really good thing to pick up because it's 0 mana to add 1 color of anything to your pool if you have Metalcraft. Like, honestly, it doesn't get much better than this when you're talking about mana acceleration specifically for artifacts. Yeah, honestly, like, there's really not a whole lot to say. This is a really good card, something that I need to put on my wish list because I do need this card. Cool. The next card, again, I wrote this list a while ago and I totally forgot about this card. This card's really interesting, and that is Unstable Obelisk. This is an interesting card. You know, it does the different things, right? So it, like, taps for 1, pretty basic, it's 3 mana, whatever. And I think the main thing that I'm noticing about this card is, like, it's 7 mana to sack it to destroy target permanent. I'm thinking this leans itself more towards, I'm gonna say, colorless decks, period. And the reason that I'm saying that is, if you're putting this in anything else, honestly, I think there's just so many better things to play. Because 7 mana to sack something, to destroy anything is a lot of mana. And if you're playing any colors, unless you're like playing a color and you're like, oh, I'm playing monocolored and like I don't have ways to deal with X in this color, like this might be a good alternative. But other than that, like 7 mana is like a lot of mana to sack. Yes, it does destroy anything, which is pretty good. I just feel like this card should be like, they need like another version of this that's just not 7 mana. Like it's a lot, to be honest, but I wanted to include it in here just as like another option. But again, I think in like colorless decks, this is like it's not great, but like colorless doesn't have that many ways of dealing with, I feel like, stuff, so this like might not be a bad card. I don't know if it really has a place in anything else like that I could think of. I think there's better cards. So the next card I want to talk to you guys about is Expedition Map. Expedition Map is one of my favorite mana accelerations. I'm really excited to talk about some cards that I play with. Like I said, I like to talk about other stuff, but it's nice to talk about stuff I actually run. I love the Expedition Map. It's, again, if you're on a budget, this card's like $3-4, but honestly, like, I would just spend the $3-4. What I really like about Expedition Map is you can get any land. Now, it does go into your hand, so it's total 3 mana to get any land, but I kind of like that it's like 1, and then you could just do it, and then whenever you just have time or like mana, you can just do 2 and tap it. So it's like, and again, it's not something like, no one's gonna like, you're not gonna play this on turn 1 and no one's gonna kill it on turn 2. Like, it's just not going to happen unless you like, I don't know, play like a really oppressive land or a really crazy land and everyone knows it, like Gaia's Cradle or something like that. But I have a feeling that's not the majority of the people who watch my videos. So, but yeah, Expedition Map is just a really good auto-include, I would say, in like every deck, unless you're running just all basics, which the likelihood of that happening is like pretty slim. Don't love it in monocolor decks, I would say, because I feel like unless you're running like a good enough amount of like specialty lands, I don't necessarily know, like it's fine, but I think this is really good. So you can get like dual lands or just like any other type of specialty land, really. I love Expedition Map. It's like one of my favorite cards to like that are colorless mana acceleration. So this is another one of my favorites that I've been playing with this card for a really long time. That is Darksteel Ingot. You know something, Darksteel Ingot, I think the thing that truly just makes this card good is the fact that it's indestructible, because I run so much removal and I run so many board wipes that I run into instances where I'm like, blow up the board, and then I like blow up my mana rocks, and then just like Darksteel Ingot just like stays on through. And honestly, like there's probably better cards, like really 3 mana, and then you can just tap, and you do get to add anything to your pool, which is nice. But I think the indestructible is like the real thing here. Don't get me wrong, I do really like this card. I just feel like some people are like, why, like there's other things you could run, and it's like, yes, but like it's indestructible. So, and the last card, I think we're ending honestly on a pretty good note, is Worn Powerstone. This is a great card. This is a great card, period. Like, honestly, it's so good. It's 3 mana. It doesn't have the battlefield tapped, but you do get to add 2 to your pool. This is so good in early stages of the game. Like, it's kind of like always, like, starting out with, like, a Soul Ring. But it's kind of like getting a Soul Ring and then this, or just getting, like, this is just, like, so good. Like, it helps your board so much. Like, honestly, I can't think of an instance where I wouldn't really want a Worn Powerstone, like, unless you're running just so many, like, actual mana symbols. But the likelihood of you doing that, like, I'm assuming there's going to be some colorless stuff in there. Like, this is a really good card, belongs in so many different things. It's also really good, too, because getting this in late stages of the game when your commander costs more, if it dies, is really good, because then you can just tap your Worn Powerstone to, like, get you additional mana. So, I do like this card. It's also a really good budget card. So, guys, that is it. I hope you really enjoyed this video talking about colorless mana acceleration, mana rocks, mana ramp. I hope you got a couple of new ideas for your decks. I think that's everything I have to say. Like my video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.